Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, I know I announced on social media that I was going to preach on money, so maybe that's why some people stayed at home today. They didn't want to hear the preacher talk about money.
Oh, man.
It started getting, what is it? The old man said, you stopped the preaching and you moved on to meddling.
Hey.
But today I really want to focus on three things. What does it mean to put God to the test? What does it mean to give to Caesar what is his? And then the last thing is to talk about what a right relationship with money and stuff might look like. But let me start with this. There was a good old faithful lady in my church in Virginia, and she said, Pastor, you're never going to believe this. I was looking for a parking place downtown yesterday, and there just wasn't one. And I started praying. And all of a sudden, after I made 4 trips around the main square, there was a place that opened up, and God answered my prayer.
Amen.
Only took 5 laps around the town before God answered her prayer. You see, what it really means to test God sometimes is to try and find God confirming the things we want, confirming the conclusions that perhaps we've already reached. To see our relationship with God is almost transactional. So we kind of use God. And we use religion. And that's really not what Jesus calls us to. Some people out in our society this day, and around the world in fact, might say, well, I don't need to wear a mask because God's going to take care of me. That's testing God. Or I don't need to take medicine when they're in the hospital because God's going to protect me. That's testing God. And I've seen that firsthand. Imagine somebody that refuses medication for their child as an act of faith. It's directly the opposite of an act of faith. But it feels good to the person that is claiming that. So they asked Jesus this question in the gospel. And Jesus said, don't put God to the test. And in this story, I find the combination of people quite interesting. You've got the Pharisees, the old traditional conservative Jews who keep the law. And they are not about to put up with graven images. I mean, you remember the story of the money changers in the temple. Jesus flipped the table. Well, the reason there are money changers is because you can't use the money that has the emperor's picture on it in the temple. So they were not about to have anything to do with money. And then you've got the Herodians, who were told, come with the Pharisees. Well, see, King Herod was put there by the emperor. He was supported by the Romans. So the Herodians kind of had a vested interest in the tax system because they had the spill-off of that. So there are these two groups both quizzing Jesus about money. So you have the Pharisees who feel like they're giving in to pagan oppressors if they pay tax. And you have Herodians who believe you got to pay the tax because otherwise the system collapses. So they come to Jesus with this trick question that you hear this morning. And when I first read the text this week, I found myself thinking it almost feels like either a Supreme Court nomination process with the Judicial Committee or a political debate where you ask a question and you have no idea what kind of answer is going to come. And it probably won't be an answer related to the question. And so Jesus said we're not supposed to relate to him with this gotcha mentality. We don't come at Jesus with try and trick him so that he answers the question we want him to. But instead, he wants us to relate to him with trust. Trust. So no testing of God. But then let's talk about money. The very coin that was used in those days was the denarius. You go to the Nissan Brothers store just outside Bethlehem today, you can buy coins from the first century. And you'll see Caesar on one side, the emperor, and on the other side you'll see pax, the symbol for peace. And these coins were against the Jewish law. And so Jesus looks at them and says, whose face is on the money? I can almost imagine holding up a coin or pointing at them saying, take that money out of your pocket, and whose face is on it? He knew, and he didn't use the word face. In the original translation, you have the word icon in Greek, icon, which we've come to know the word icon. Whose icon is on your money? Well, then it's not your money. It's the money of the person who's pictured on it. So give to him that which is his. It's not your money. We don't own our money, we possess our money. And we mustn't allow our money to possess us. Greed is real, and greed is destructive. And living with money as one's motivation, I believe, is a very empty existence. And Jesus tells us not to be troubled by the trappings of money. He then turns to them and in the same breath says, give back to God what is God's. And so I really started thinking about that. What icon is stamped on my life? What icon is stamped on your life? What mark do you possess? In Genesis, we're told at the creation, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. We were created in the image and likeness of God. Jesus said that everything you have and everything you are is already God's. One of my old professors used to say, our life is simply on loan to us from God. So Jesus' real concern is that you live into that image, living into that likeness of God who lovingly created you. So what are the things that are God's, which you're supposed to give back? And the answer is really simple. I struggled with it this week. What am I supposed to give you, Lord? Do you want 5%? Do you want 25%? And Jesus said, I want it all. I want it all. I want you. I want your life. Your whole life as an offering to God. It's like that old hymn, take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Take my moments and my days and let them flow in ceaseless praise. So just to review, don't test God and try and manipulate God into some comfortable shape that fits neatly into your worldview. Pay your taxes, cast your vote, live upstanding and respectable lives, and honor God. And don't allow the pursuit of wealth to rob you of finding real treasure, which is a real relationship with God. And finally, don't just tithe 10% of yourself to the Lord, but render unto God everything. Render. Don't give unto Caesar what is his. Render unto Caesar. That implies it was Caesar's to begin with. Render. Render unto God everything. Love fully and completely for God every day. Old John Wesley, the early Methodist founder, once said, He posed the question while he was preaching. He said, has your Christianity affected your pockets? And I used to love thinking about that. Has my faith affected my pocket? Has my faith affected my life? Someone once said you can learn a whole lot about somebody when you look in the register of their checkbook and see where they spend their money. Well, may God look at the registers of our lives and feel good about what he sees when he sees where we're investing ourselves, our time, our treasure. My prayer today is that we can be free from allowing our money and our stuff to hold us hostage ever. We can be free of the pressures of believing in a God who requires manipulation or coercion. That we can be free to live for God with all that we have and all that we are. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.